But all right, everybody, whoever may be watching this, listening to this, welcome to the Art of Human podcast. I believe, I believe this is episode 85. I'm gonna take a guess on that. I think 84 if it's not 85. But my name is Christian Rodriguez, and this wonderful person who is going to be conversing with me today, his name is Reynaldo Solorzano, or if I say it with the Spanish accent, it'd be Reynaldo Solorzano. Is that
Yeah,
right?
good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, I remember when I first met you, and we'll kind of just build context for the audience. But I remember when I first met you, I remember your last name was actually something significant because I don't think I had ever heard anybody with that last name. And then I don't know if this is my memory's correct, but I kind of remember like because when we first met was what class again?
They was Miss Inglehart's class in fourth grade.
Fourth grade.
Yeah, fourth grade.
Okay. And then did you show up like right when the school year started, or did you show up like in the middle?
Um, I feel like it was in the, I feel like it was in the middle
In
because
the middle?
I remember, when you're barely going to elementary school, I don't know what day it is, but they usually make a list and then you get to see what class or what teacher you're going to be in. I
Mm-hmm.
remember looking at that list. I don't remember looking at that list, but I do remember looking at that list in fifth grade. So I think I came in around like in the middle, in fourth grade.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody. So me and Ray met in fourth grade, Miss Inglehart's. And yeah, I think you're right, Ray. I think you showed up just kind of like in the middle of the school year because like when you start the class from the very beginning, it's almost like I don't know, but I just remember that when you showed up, I was like, oh shit, there's a new kid. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? And I feel like I probably remembered it that way because you showed up like just kind of randomly. And if I'm not mistaken, you showed up from was it like or not
Yeah.
railroad, right?
Yeah, Railroad
Yeah, I was
Canyon.
fucking right. Hell yeah. So what was well, we should probably talk things that are more relevant for the audience. Yeah, tell us a little bit, Ray, about maybe like your early years, like from birth to maybe the time that we're talking about, like elementary school, just to get some real context about like literally when you were just a fucking little tiny baby with like just like unconscious to like the point where you're in elementary school and you have some degree of consciousness.
Yeah, well, I'll actually even start before that. I remember, um, well, I'm originally from like Hayward, so that was like kind of where we lived at the time. And
Hayward?
then yeah, Hayward, just
Hayward what?
up north, Hayward,
California?
California.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's about like seven, I would say about 6 7 hours from Lake Elsinore, which I currently live in. Um, so yeah, so I just remember living there for about 3 or 4 years. I remember I went to preschool, and then came down here in Lake Elsinore. And that was when I was gonna start kindergarten. So I've kind of just been in Lake Elsinore since then. Um, so yeah, I went to Railroad Canyon, and then like you said, we met in fourth grade. I don't really remember too much about Hayward, to be honest. I kind of just remember going to preschool there, and I really only have like two memories. I remember being dropped off in preschool, and then I remember just getting picked up. Like I think it was like last day. Um, I think it was my mom or my dad. They just kind of were on a bicycle and they just picked me up. So that's really like the only two memories that I have of Hayward. But
Hmm.
yeah, so I lived in Lake Elsinore ever since. So I feel like I'm more from like Lake Elsinore than
Than anywhere else.
anything.
And I haven't actually done this with actually any guests, but lately I've been reading this book called Karma by Sadhguru, and he talks about karma from kind of like the yogic culture and stuff, and it's a lot of it's based on like these different like types of memory that we have, and there's like I think in the book he talks about 8 different memories, like evolutionary, atomic. I can't remember the rest right now, but I bring this up because I'm interested, like very interested right now in like the way in which like contemporary humans or like humans that are alive have been influenced by their parents and like going more and more in the past, right? Because like obviously like you were born from, correct me if I'm wrong, like in biology class, isn't it like the like one chromosome from your dad and then one chromosome from your
Yeah.
mom, right? And what is it? The males you get the X and then the females you get the Y?
I think
Or how does
so. I
that
think
work?
it is. I'm not too sure exactly, but I know it's either one is the X and one is the Y. Yeah.
Something like that. And obviously the not obviously, but the male chromosome to be a male, it's XY, right? And then females XX.
I think so. I am not 100%
Okay.
sure, but
It's some shit like that.
yeah.
But I was gonna ask, like, I'm saying all this to be like, would you mind building a little bit of context about like your parents and like kind of where your family lineage comes from?
Mm. Yeah. So both of my parents are from Jalisco. Um, I believe that's just like the a state in Mexico. And then my dad, he 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 actually didn't go beyond middle school, but my mom did go beyond. I believe she wanted to go to college, but they just didn't have. She didn't have enough money to go to college. So, but yeah. So my dad, he came, I believe, when he was around 16 or 17, and he ended up finding one of his brothers that was here, and then they just kind of worked in restaurants and kind of get money and send it back to their family. And then during this time, my dad and my mom worked together, and he'd often go back and forth to visit his family and my mom. And then one day they just decided to, get all their stuff and then come to America and just kind of commit to living here. Um,
Wait, so
and then
did your dad meet your mom before he had moved to America when he was like 17?
yeah,
Oh,
mhm,
okay, okay.
yeah. And so yeah, then they started working. Um, my dad started working in a restaurant with his other family, with his brothers. So they had a little place, and then he ended up in Hayward, just because there was like a lot of work for construction, and it was
Mm-hmm.
actually a really good job. And then we were living in this apartment, and my dad he met, which is now my godfather. And then me and him actually have like a really good relationship, and he would help my dad with like anything he needed to know, like in construction, like any advice, and we became really good friends. And that's how he ended up being my godfather. Um, and then yeah, my dad just ended up looking for like a better place to live, and then we ended up coming to like Gossamer, and then we have family all over the place, so we were able to live temporarily in one of my uncle's houses. And then basically, yeah, my dad has just been looking for the best place to live, the best place to kind of raise a family. So we've in the early ages, like he was moving a lot, but he's definitely kind of like committed to raising us here.
Okay. I'm interested to know, would you happen to have like a relationship with your grandparents at all?
So I actually wasn't able to meet my mom's dad and mom. So one of my grandparents and my grandpa's, yeah. So yeah, I haven't been able to go to Mexico just because my parents are fearful of me going, and just a new place. They want to make sure I go with someone that knows the area, just because a lot of things have happened, like where they're from. Because they are from a little town, and a lot of things happen in that little town that they just want me to be mindful of. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's yeah, it's definitely unfortunate that I wasn't able to meet them. But I in the conversations that I've had with my mom and about her mom and dad, it's almost like I know them in a way, but I just unfortunately just never got to meet them.
Wait, so neither on your dad's side or your mom's side?
My dad's side, yeah, I was able to build a relationship with my dad's mom and
On your
dad, yeah.
dad's side? And there's
Hmm.
your mom's parents, are they still alive?
No, they're not.
Okay. And then your dad's
Yeah,
parents, are they still alive?
no.
Okay.
My grandma. She actually passed away. The one that I have met, she passed away. I believe it was 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. And then my grandpa passed shortly after her passing.
Sorry
Mhm.
about that, right?
Yeah, it's all right. They were, yeah. So I was able to build a really good relationship with them, which I'm happy because at least I was able to meet my dad's parents,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah.
And based on your experience with your grandparents that you did get to meet, like what was something that you learned from them with the time that you did get to spend with them?
Um, it was definitely how important family is, because they would always value their time. Like they would always be thinking about their kids. Like they always wanted them to come hang out. That was really, really important to them. And I believe like that's something that I learned, like to value your family, um, and just to always be around them. Like they always just wanted everyone to be there. And
Mm-hmm.
then you could just tell like when everyone was together, everyone was just really happy. Like my grandparents, they brought everyone together,
Mm-hmm.
and it's weird because like since they're passing, it's almost like there isn't really something for everyone to come together because they were the reason everyone would come together. So
Ah,
it's definitely like they definitely they were that how can I say this?
or like the
They were
glue that
almost,
kept everything together,
yeah,
kind of.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah. Like for the family, you're saying like all the like they
yeah,
were the grandparents and then everybody who just came to visit them. You guys
hmm
were all okay. I think I could
yeah. But
relate
and
to
I feel
that.
like yeah, and I feel like that's the way for like many families.
Mm-hmm.
Usually everyone comes and sees like their mom and dad, and it just like it makes it special for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I was gonna say that I could definitely relate to that because I mean, you know, some of my family from Mexico,
Hmm
and for people listening, my mom's family, which I'm about to talk about, they're from my mom and my uncles and all her brothers and sisters grew up in Tijuana. And I believe my grandma and my grandpa came, I can't recall, but it's somewhere in Mexico that's much more down south. But I'm saying that I could relate to you on that aspect that the grandparents would be kind of the glue to the family in a way. Because for me and that my grandparents, it's not plural, it's just my grandma. But she would live at this house. You've been to Tijuana or no?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, Tijuana, if you were to go, there's like two different entrances that you can go into Mexico. And there's one that's called the Otay border. And so the cool thing about where my grandma used to live at when she was alive, and then for her like last few years, she actually lived at my aunt's house because she just needed a lot of assistance. But for most of life that I knew her, she lived in this particular house that was literally only about a mile from the border. And this was actually the house in which my mom actually bought the house. And then it's a whole long kind of longish story with that whole situation. But my mom buys this house and my grandma ends up living there. Right. So then majority of my life going to Mexico, going to Tijuana, we would like it was just like you're saying, like we would all go to this house where my grandma was at. And this is where we had every single Christmas, like all the family parties and stuff. Like this was just the meeting point, like and it was actually pretty localized because I kind of feel like it is in a central location, and
Mm-hmm.
so we would all meet at her house, and it would just be this like it's almost I feel like it's almost like a spiritual thing where like there's this one person, and although it's just one person, there's almost this like there's something special about this person or something that makes this person, I wouldn't say superior, but they almost have this like what I'm saying, like they're an elder person. Like I mean literally if she wasn't there, like nothing beyond that would be there. The
Yeah.
aunts, the
hmm
uncles, me, my brother, and then all the nephews and blah blah blah. So it's like there's this like that's why I said spiritual because it's almost something that there's not like words for, like it's just like something natural where like the elder person's like that's the person, like that's
Yeah.
almost why
Yeah.
we're here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I know this might, I don't know, if you were expecting anything from this podcast, but I do want to get like onto you, but I'm really, like I mentioned, I read that book. And so now I'm just really interested in like looking at things like from the past and seeing how the present is like kind of seeing how the present is the present, right? Because like I mentioned, like a lot of things are based off our memory. Like literally
Yeah.
our genetics are influenced by our parents and our grandparents. And I mean, you could just keep on going forever. And then that's, then we get to this point, and then, so let's go on to now this point. So like Reynaldo Solorzano, we mentioned a little bit about where you grew up. You mentioned you grew up in Lake Elsinore. Um, what are some things that makes Ray Ray? What are some things that maybe that you've noticed about yourself that has been there consistently from like since you were really young and like till this day it's still something that makes you tick, that like you would say this is Ray?
Hmm. I think something that I've always wanted to do, or I've always noticed that I find joy in, is helping the people around me. And for me in particular, it's been just math. I've always been able to help like my friends with math, and I think I just find so much joy in that because you see someone that is struggling, that they can be really sad, they can be crying, they can be angry, and I have something like a skill that I can offer this person, and it can make them feel better. Just make their life a lot easier. Um, and like, yeah, as long as I can remember, like in middle school and elementary school, I've always just liked helping people. And another passion that I've also had is basketball. I've always been pretty good at basketball. And I remember kids at the playground always asking me, hey, like, like, can you teach me how to do this or teach me how to do that? And I've always just found some joy in just helping out, like helping someone that wanted to get better at something. And that's just something that has always been with me. And to this day, I still find a lot of joy.
And would you say, you mentioned two particular things being math and basketball, like when was it that you first noticed those two particular things? Like how old were you when you
Um,
first noticed like math and basketball being like a passion of yours?
I think I think that was more like in middle school, just because I think I started to take basketball a lot more serious in middle school, and then math. I think that's just been um, maybe probably like in fourth or fifth grade, like in elementary school.
Hmm.
I remember just being pretty good at it and just always helping. So yeah, just like at a very young age, I feel like I knew, um, like I've developed those passions like when I was at a young age. Mhm.
And what is it about, like, how is it that math like works inside yourself? Because there's and I'm sure most people can relate to this. You have conversations like, oh, I suck at this, oh, I'm good at that. Like, I feel like what is it that kind of runs through you when it gets into math? Like, does it just seamlessly kind of come together? Like, does your brain just make sense of it? Are you able to like visualize things in your head? Or like, how is it that math connects with you? Like, I'm actually interested in that.
Yeah, so I think the big part of it is having like the right mindset. Like for example, like when I see a problem, um, I try not to think how difficult the problem's going to be. I just kind of take my time and just look at the problem for what it is. And then I start kind of making conclusions like, oh, what is it asking? Or what is it? Instead of you give someone a problem and already they're like, it's math. Like, I don't want to look at it. Like, they've already kind of developed this connotation that it's going to be hard, that, um, you know, math is not good. Like, I don't need it. So it's all about just having the right mindset. Because if you just
Mhm.
look at it for what it is, and then kind of just take your time at looking at it instead of being like, oh, I don't like math, or um, that thinking it's going to be really hard. You're already at a loss. So just kind of changing that mindset or just like approaching it in the right way.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's something that can help you because a lot of the kids that I tutor um, or have helped in the past, they have that mindset where they don't really they think everything is going to be hard. but when you just break it down and make it into like simple terms, it can be a lot easier.
Hmm.
Mm.
And do you feel like math in a way is symbolic of life in some way?
Hmm. I think, it's hard to answer that question because I think you're almost asking if it's important or almost like
Like, well, I guess, okay, maybe let me say the question differently. What I really mean to ask is like, have you personally learned like life lessons from math itself, or the process of, or like any sort of process involved with math? Like, do you feel like you've
mm,
taken away like life lessons from math? That's what I'm
yeah,
asking.
I would say so. I feel like uh almost like, I always say like hard work pays off because even for myself, math is not always easy. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people think that, oh, that I like math, so I must be good at it. But the truth
Or
is,
like it just comes to you like easy and you don't have to try or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
Okay.
the truth is I failed tests. Like, I'm not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. And that's what keeps pushing me forward. I like math and I like what I can do with math. Like like I said before, that I like helping people. So
Mm-hmm.
if I want to help someone, I try really hard to understand the concepts and try to apply them. Um, so yeah, it's never been easy for myself either. I've never gotten straight A's in all my math classes. It's always been hard, but hard work does pay off. If you put the time into studying, if you put the time into um, taking good notes, always doing your homework, it does pay off. Um, so yeah.
Okay.
So that's the life lesson that I've definitely learned. Being patient also because sometimes it's not going to come to you right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I always just remember those things. Just keep working hard, just be patient, because there will be a time when you're going to get in this groove and things are going to start working out.
Okay. And how is it, how is kind of your relationship with basketball? I mean, you said you started to get more serious with it in middle school, which for
Mm.
people listening, me and Ray went to the same middle school and we went to the same high school.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we might have even played together like very briefly in middle school. Because I know I played on the basketball team for a little bit. Do you remember me being on the team with you for a little bit?
I don't remember, but I do remember occasionally going to the park and playing some basketball
Yeah,
with
me
you.
and you would play a little bit. And so
Mm.
everyone knows, like Ray was just like, yeah, he was significantly better than me. Um, but yeah, like how has your journey been with basketball? I mean, you said you really started getting passionate about it in middle school, and then in
Hmm.
high school, I know a little bit of your history. I know you're varsity, and I know you're definitely one of the best players at our high school. And then eventually you go on to play at the collegiate level. So take us a little bit through your basketball journey, just kind of throughout the journey, and like, what are some things maybe that you enjoy about it? What are some things that you take away? I don't think right now you're still not, you're not playing competitively right now, right?
No,
Yeah,
no,
so what are some things that you enjoy from basketball, and what are some things that you took away, and and I know I'm kind of throwing a lot of questions so we can just kind of go with it.
man.
But what kept you motivated? We're talking about hard work, and you're talking about how like, like some people think that math is just easy for you, but you're saying that, you've also failed a lot and that it's about the hard work. So how is it that, you played basketball for so many years and at a competitive level? Like, what are some of the things that attribute to that?
Okay. So let me go into my basketball journey, and then we'll kind of wrap it around like what I've learned from it. Um,
Okay.
so I started playing in sixth grade competitively. I remember there was like this after school program called Think Together,
Yeah.
and you know I was pretty good like when I would go to the park and stuff. But then once I got into the games, I noticed that I wasn't doing too well. Like I would be really good during practice, and then once it got to the games, I remember some of my teammates that weren't that good, they would end up doing better than me. So, I would like work really hard. I would always say like I'm the hardest worker, but for some reason, I just couldn't make a lot of shots during the game, which is like very strange. Like I couldn't figure out why. And then it did start getting better. I remember seventh grade, I started to get better like in the games. I think I was just kind of nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I just really couldn't figure it out. And then during eighth grade, I remember I was getting pretty good. This was just against like the middle school kids. And
Mm-hmm.
then there was someone in eighth grade that came up to me and he asked me if I wanted to join their travel ball team. Um, so in eighth grade, I joined this travel ball team and I came to their practice. And it was almost like I started at the bottom.
Okay.
So like in eighth,
Because are you
so in
saying
eighth grade,
that because everybody there was like way better than you? Or what
yeah,
do you
yeah,
okay.
everyone was there. Yeah, so everyone there was way better than me. And then I remember a game missing so many shots, like to the point where I felt like my teammates were gonna kick me off the team because that's how bad I was doing. And I just felt really bad inside. Like I felt really terrible. I was like, man, this has never happened before. Like why? Yeah, it was almost like I was at the bottom. And then I just kept practicing and going to the park. I ended up getting taller, ended up getting stronger, and then eventually I was the best on that team.
Okay.
And then this was before trying out for the high school team at Elsinore High School.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I tried out for the Elsinore High School team, it was almost like I was the worst one there again. Like I
Oh
just kept
shit.
every time like I moved forward, I was
Mm-hmm.
always the worst.
Wow.
And then yeah, I just kept practicing again. Like I went to the park. I started playing against older people, which really helped me. And then at the end of my freshman year, so during summer for freshman year, we have like this little summer league. I remember only getting to play. I don't know how many games we played. There's probably like 10 games. I probably
Mm-hmm.
only played 5 minutes in those 10 games.
Wow. Only 5 minutes out of 10
Yeah,
games?
yeah. This is like summer league. Yeah,
Wow. So summer league as in before high school had officially started, right?
yeah. hmm
Okay.
Okay. And then at the end of freshman year, I was a starter. So basically, like I ended up like coming off the bench a little bit more. I ended up being like a starter, like the main player. Um, and then 10th grade, I was on varsity, but I didn't get to play, But then I always played my junior year, and then my senior year, I always played. What's crazy is the game. I believe it's in high school. It was 8 quarters, maybe so 8:16. Yeah, so 32 minutes a game. I never stepped out. I never stepped off the floor.
From a
I
single
always I
game?
always played the 32 minutes. Yeah,
You're talking about your senior year?
junior year and senior year.
Okay.
The coaches never took me out.
Not a single game.
No, not a single game.
Wow.
The only
Damn.
game I got taken out was my last. I think my last game as a senior because I
Uh-huh.
fouled out. So that's when you get 6 fouls,
Okay.
and that was the only game that they took me out. Besides
Hmm.
that, I never came out.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's why I was like, I was so skinny because I just was always playing like every minute of the game, and I don't think anyone really realized that because like
Mm-hmm.
no one ever really came up to me or ever observed that. But I feel like I was the only one who really knew that I never got like sat out, like they never sat me out to take a break or anything.
And
So
was there anybody else on the team that had done something like that? 2 years consistently of playing every single game full time?
I don't think so.
Hmm. So that
Um,
means not only were you obviously the chosen one to, I mean, you were obviously chosen there because the coaches thought that you
mhm,
would be the best choice. But not only that, like for you to be able to be there every single game for 2 years, 2 seasons, or whatever it is, consistently, not only does that mean that the coaches thought you were the best one, but that means you stayed healthy on top of it. Like you
mhm,
were actually there, you showed up every single game. So it's like that's a sign of more than just like, oh, I have talent. Like that kind of brings us back to the hard work part because the hard work, I feel like that's
mhm,
also like the dedication. Like you're there every single day. Like it's not like,
mhm.
oh, a few days of the week I'll show up. Like if you literally played every single game for two
Yeah.
years, like that means you were there every single day And I'm sure you must have had some days that you were sick or didn't feel good, right?
Yeah, of course, you know. But I just felt like I was so valuable to the team to where like I just couldn't sit out, you know. And I
Mm,
think that's something. I think there's like as an athlete, I think that there are some times that we do need to kind of be mindful and be like, all right, maybe I should sit this one out. But it's just like a competitive drive that just tells us like we're not gonna sit out. Like we can do it. Like we just keep pushing, you know.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's just what it was. And then when I went to college at La Sierra University. Um, it's like it happened again. It was like I was the worst player again. I don't
Fuck.
know why that kept
That's
happening.
fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, it just felt like I was always the worst player. Um,
But do
like
you
I
think it
would,
was more in your mind, or do you think you were actually like the worst player at that
I don't
time?
know. I think it was a little bit of both because
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know why that kept happening. But and then um, once I graduated college, I think the last 2 years I did really well, and then I started. I think I started um, my second year of college. So from my second year to, you know, my fourth year in college, I was a starter. So it's just like this ongoing cycle of like me being the worst and then me ended up just like being on top. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of what I started to see. Like, but it was just, yeah, like I said, it took a lot of time. Like it took a lot of hard work because I could have said, oh, I'm always going to be at the bottom, you know, but I really worked hard and that's kind of what I mean by hard work pays off because I got to see that a lot in my life. So that's just a life lesson that I have. That it might feel like I'm at the bottom right now, but in a little bit, or like a few years, like I'll be on top.
And what was like, did you have any sort of thoughts towards like continuing to play beyond like collegiate or after your 4 years? Like, I'm just curious because I mean, at this
Mm-hmm.
point, you had gone from middle school, at the bottom, then you went to this travel league, then you went to high school. So you kind of, and then now you get to college. Like, did you almost kind of want to go to like another level and kind of do that cycle again, or how was that?
I think there comes a point where we have to be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you have to kind of you have to think about your future
Mm-hmm.
and you have to think of the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And for me was that I wasn't gonna go pro. And so
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people could take that as that I gave up,
Mm-hmm.
but um you know, my knees, a lot of my body was, I feel like was in a lot of pain, like
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of like my collegiate level, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like during my senior year, I remember I started twisting like my ankles a lot. I ended up like getting sprained in both of my ankles. I started feeling a lot of knee pain off of like my dominant knee that I would jump off. Um, so I feel like I was starting to have a lot of injuries. Um, and I don't think I was really that healthy. Like I feel like it was affecting my health. Like I was losing a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think just seeing that I'm not sure how much my body could take, like how much more it could take. So I started to think that maybe it's kind of over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay with that because I feel like deep down I knew that it took like more work and more talent to get to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And just knowing like how much time I would dedicate. Um, and then I just had to kind of make a decision that I'm just gonna kind of do something else. But
Mm-hmm.
in the same time, like I always wanted to do something in education, like math wise, or like be a teacher or be a professor. So that was always in the back of my mind. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna be a pro athlete and this is it. I always had like a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
So me letting go of one of my dreams wasn't as heartbreaking as like if it was my only dream, you know?
Oh, I got you. So you're saying
But
that
yeah,
so you're saying that becoming a professional basketball player was a dream at some point?
yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the I feel like for anyone, well, I'm not sure for anyone, but for a lot of, you know, athletes that I've met, that was always the dream, like to be in the NBA, to play in front of like thousands of fans. I feel like that's everyone's dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, you know, um there comes a time where you kind of have to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of have to face reality. But it doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
giving up. You know, giving up
Mm-hmm.
is, I feel like that's different than what I did. But
No, because I feel like this. I mean, this is interesting to kind of talk about because I feel like you're right. Like it's like there's like because it's like there's a difference between giving up and then making a conscious decision based, like you said, on reality and like thinking about yourself and your future and then making a decision. Like that's like you using your intelligence, because I feel like giving up is that's like that's like you're capable of doing something and you want to do something, but like because of distractions or impulses or like things like that, and then you say, oh no, I'm not going to do it, but you want to and you're capable of it, you're like, oh no, I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's giving up versus, let's say, like for you, for instance, and I mean there's been plenty of people to make decisions like that. I mean, even professional players, like they decide to retire not necessarily when they need, like not because the team's kicking them out, but they consciously,
mm,
they, like you said, you look at things with clarity, what's real. You look at your fitness, like you were paying attention to your health, you were paying attention to, well, how good would I have to be to become a professional, how much work, how much time, how much commitment, how would that line up with all the other variables going on in my life? Because it's not at any single point in life where like everything stops and this is my only reality. Like no, like everything is constantly being juggled at the same time all the time, like it never stops you know um, so no, I think that's a good point to bring up, and I think to be able to do something like what you did, like you had this dream, you had this vision, and I mean, how long did you have it for? Like years?
yeah, for a long time.
Yeah, see, so you had that for like a long time, but you had the humility to like give it up for for what you really thought was best, right?
Mm,
Because ultimately, I feel like that's what it is. And that takes humility and that takes like a certain character, because I think um for me, for instance, and I was about to like just start making up all this shit, but I something that I'm practicing now is to like really just keep it contextual to my experience. That way I'm not just talking about shit that I heard about, but just shit that's real for me. But for instance, for me, and the audience will hear this, but and I told you this recently, but I don't know if I told. Well, actually, I did tell you in detail, but I had the dream to go to the Olympics for track and field, and then I let go of that dream, or you could say I gave it up, and this was in 2020, and then now it came back. That dream came back to me, but like I had to go through that humble time where I let it go because for me my priority became my health, you
mm,
know and so I think there's a lesson that can be taken away from all this, that you have to look at things in the present moment. I feel like that's what I found for myself. You have to look at things for the present moment and make choices based on that. And I think it's beautiful because then things get to naturally evolve, and sometimes amazing things happen without you necessarily knowing what's going to happen. And that's kind of how my journey's been ever since I started to just prioritize my health and happiness. And then all these wonderful things have been coming from that, but not necessarily from me, like necessarily trying in a way, but just
yeah,
from like it just kind of being the case.
yeah, no, I
Um,
totally understand like where you're
mhm,
coming from, and yeah, so yeah, kind of thinking about it now, giving up. Like when you say that, I feel like there's like so many definitions and interpretations of what that can mean.
mhm.
Like, and your example is like another example. Like, you said you gave up, but you kind of came back to it. Um, was yeah, so yeah,
Uh, um, all right. So see, this is that point. Like, I don't know. I have these points now where like I'm just like shit. Like, I don't know. Like, for instance, and I'll just do this just to keep the conversation going. But yeah. So for instance, the other day I was at my dad's house, and tell me if you've ever had an experience like this. But like, everything was like fine. And then all of a sudden, like I felt kind of tired. My energy felt kind of like it was like decreasing. And then all of a sudden I find myself laying on top of my dad's bed. And then now I just felt like kind of empty. And then it was like my mind and my mind just wanted to like shut me down in a way. And then it was just like consciously I was like, no, like I can't just let myself go down like this. Like it's kind of hard to like explain what exactly that experience was like, but that happens to me and I have to like consciously be like, no, I'm gonna get up, and like I was gonna change the oil to my car. I'm like, no, like I'm just gonna keep going. Like and I got up and I just, kind of one step at a time started looking for the light, because it was already nighttime. I had to like set things up so I could actually see what the fuck I'm doing. And then I had to put my car on top of the thing so the car is elevated so I can get under it. And I'm just doing one step at a time because my dad was like at his other property. But there was that moment where like, I don't know, I just kind of felt like my body was just, everything was just kind of shutting down on me, like just kind of get like in a way I was kind of like everything was shutting down, and I consciously needed to like, nah, like you can keep going kind of thing. And it was this weird thing, but like I knew I needed to like push forward because I knew it would just kind of turn into like a dark place. um and that's kind of how because I feel like, I'm sorry, Ray, I know I'm not kind of asking you questions right now, but I kind of feel like this is what I need to do to keep going. But that's how I kind of feel like with the podcast nowadays, like like I just mentioned like a second ago, like I didn't want to go on some tangent where I'm talking about some shit like, oh well, like most people this or most people that, because I caught myself before I would do that pretty often, like, oh, nowadays people do this, like, but like without me, like this is just shit that I read in books or like hear other people talk about, but it's not shit that I actually know. So um um but yeah, like I don't know, like even right now is a perfect example. Like I'm almost kind of getting that feeling, but like I'm just like, no, like I can just keep talking. Like it's just me being me. Like there's nothing that I have to try to do per se, you know. Um, but yeah, Ray. Let's see. I'm like I should have probably wrote down questions and stuff, but
No worries.
um, let me think. I don't know. I kind of just want to talk about you to the audience, you know.
Yeah, we could talk about what's going on right now. Like for anyone interested, like right now I'm going to Casa San Bernardino, and I'm learning to be a teacher.
Okay.
Um, so I'm starting to learn a lot about like the environment, how important it is for these kids that we're educating, how important it is, and how much it affects their learning. And a lot of teachers that me and you've had, like even at Austin High School, which is a good school. But in our course of education, we always find those teachers who are, I guess that you can say, like they're old school. So have different ways of teaching kids. So I'm just learning a lot about like how to let's see, how to kind of teach the kids in a way that like we care about them, um, that like we're there for them, that we support them, because we don't know what's going on at home. There's always those kids. Like I get to see them a lot when I sub. A lot of those quiet kids that just have like their heads down and they feel like the world is against them. And when they come to school, it's hard. It's hard for them to come to class and just like turn on a switch. When they're not robots, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of teachers and just a lot of people in general, I think that kids can just kind of turn on the switch where they can just get to work. Like no matter what happens at home, that they come to class and they're just like, all right, let's do this. Like they're not robots, and I feel like yeah, I feel like that's an important thing that I'm learning. That not that I've never knew that, but this like it's becoming more real. I think that's like the way that I'm trying to tell you. So yeah, I guess that's something that I just wanted to share.
Mhm.
It's something to just be more aware of. Like it's something that I've like been reflecting on, and something that I want to work on when I'm a teacher. Is like I make sure that everyone in the classroom feels that they're there, that they're not invisible. Um, and I just feel like not a lot of people know what goes on in school. Like a lot of people don't know what kids like are going through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, so that's kind of what my journey is about right now. Um,
Do you, because I know that you told me, we talked the other day and you're telling me about your experiences being a substitute teacher, like, and I know you mentioned to me that you're more interested in teaching at the high school level,
mhm.
right? What is it about that? Like, is it the age group you feel like you can connect with them better? Like, you kind of just mentioned all these things about children. Do you feel like you make a stronger connection with the high school kids? And
Yeah.
if so, why is that?
Hmm. Well, I feel like I can kind of relate to them more, um, because I'm closer to the age group, I guess. Because like they'll talk to me about music, and I feel like I listen to a lot of the music that is like popular. So like they tell me about stuff that's like on TikTok, which is like we see it all the time. Like whatever we see, they see. Um, so a lot of the stuff that they think is like cool, like popular, like I still kind of see those things because I don't really see myself. Like it's crazy to think that I'm almost going to be 26, but I don't feel like I'm going to be 26. I still feel like we're still very very young. Like we're still like in like like I'm 21 or something. So it's like when I see them, it makes me feel like I'm a lot younger in a way, just because of the
Mm,
stuff that we can kind of talk about. Um, and like when they talk to me about like college or it's like it's still fairly new. Like I'm still in college. So a lot of the stuff that they talk to me about, I can really relate to. Whereas like the younger kids, they'll talk to me about stuff like about cartoons and like some of the things like that. And like I haven't even watched those cartoons. Like I don't even see those cartoons. So I think that age group is just a lot more relatable to me, and that's where I feel like I can connect to them, which is really important. Just being able to connect to them is really important. So that's why I would choose that like age group.
okay, nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's about 9 o'clock, and I know you're a busy, busy man. Um, so let's wrap it up with the final question that I would oftentimes ask my guests. And it would be that if you had the entire human race, in front of you, or you had some sort of universal microphone, everybody could hear you. Um, what would you say to the world, like to the universe, to the world? Like I'm saying, like right now, like if you
Hmm.
literally had them, everybody on the line right now, like what would you say to them? If you just
You
had it
know,
on speaker.
I knew you were gonna ask me this question, and because it's like I've listened to your podcast before, and I know you asked this question,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I feel like it's a really hard question because like naturally I feel like there's so much to say,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like you're asking. Like I feel like I'm supposed to give them a message that is supposed to fix all of our problems, but there is no like one message that's gonna fix everything or one message that is like gonna cure everything. So kind of the more I think about it, it's kind of hard to respond to that question. But something I guess off the top of my head that I've kind of come up with is just try to get to understand like anyone, like anyone you come across or meet, just try to get to understand them and like why they are why they are like a certain way, because we all grew up in a different place, a different time, so we all have different opinions. So the more that we try to understand each other, like the better we'll be, whether that's with like any conflicts or like any kind of like racism or like stereotypes. Like the more we understand each other, I think the better we'll be off like in the future.
Hey man, that's absolutely beautiful. And I love in particular hearing it from you just because I don't know if it's because like I've known you for so long or what it is, but I really, really, I don't know. You're really one of the kindest people I feel like I've met. So I feel the warmth when you say that, and I appreciate it. And yeah, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. I mean, I'm gonna stop the recording, but I'll still talk to you for a sec after. But I just want to say to everybody who tuned in, thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope you were able to take away something positive. Thank you for supporting the podcast. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, Ray, for the wonderful message there at the end, but also just taking the time to come on here with me and pretty much just hang out with me and also the audience. Because I mean, if whoever may listen to this, you kind of, we're kind of having a conversation with them in the room listening in a way. You know what I'm saying? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It was really fun. Like, a lot of these ideas that I have, like in regards to like being a teacher and stuff, like the more I talk about it, the more it becomes real. So like I really do enjoy, like I really do enjoy talking about it, and I appreciate you taking the time to have me on your podcast. And I see how much work that you put into these podcasts, and I feel good that I'm part of it now. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I just want to say, like I really feel like it's because of the people that have supported me that like in a way that's like part of this inspiration to do something like this, because I see that it could be of value, and I see that, I think it's important to have these kind of conversations. I think it's just something that I was saying, even at the beginning of me making this podcast, like I think it's important for people to have conversations, like more long, open conversations, and just like things that are like important in a way, you know what I'm saying? Things that are important and maybe things that aren't necessarily talked about all that often just on the day to day. And I think it's really important. Like, I just really want to emphasize the fact that like it's because of people like you, who listen to the podcast, but also like just support me as a person that I think makes this possible. And I think motivates me for this to continue. And it's not by coincidence that me and you are having this podcast, obviously this is happening for a reason. And I'll look forward to doing it for the next one. I think the healthier I become, I think I'm gonna start becoming a little bit more strategic about these podcasts, because I do feel like I love the improvised aspect, but I also feel like me doing a little bit of more homework on the guest, or just me kind of prepping a little bit more questions, will help bring more value for the listener. Um, which what I'm realizing, and I know this is kind of going on a tangent, but I appreciate you listening. What I'm realizing is like the more like stable that I am within myself, the more selfless I can be to give to the world. And it's like it's just really like it's something really powerful and something really fulfilling about being able to do something like that. And yeah, I hope to be able to do that. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Christian. Thank you.
All right, man, we're gonna end it here.